All right, I've got 5:30. Let's call the meeting to order, and we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next we will move on to item number 3 on our agenda, consideration and approval of the agenda. Is there any additions, corrections, or?
I would like to ask, we have a closed session tonight that 11.0 and 12.0 be added to 9, which is the mayor's report and council concerns be moved prior to the closed session.
All right,
and then if we can, either 7.0 or 7.3 under old business, discussion possible action on January 22nd work session.
Let's make that 7.3.
7.3.
Just need that. I don't understand.
Talk about the work session that we have for tomorrow.
Okay. All right.
Ready for the next one?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm gonna pull 5.4 and let's stick it in new. I'm guessing new business 8.3.
Was 5.5 move with it, or would you keep it under the?
I suppose
That's just an upgrade in his rating, so that doesn't have anything to do with it, in my opinion. But
Well, I think that we ought to order them.
if we move 5.4, I think we got to move 5.5 as well.
okay, well, I guess I'm okay with that.
And you want to move that under new business?
I think it should go under new business.
8.3 and 8.4.
Make it 8.4 then.
Well, it might have to be 8, because look at 8.2. So it might have to be 8.1A or B.
8.1A and B. All right.
I guess that'll work too.
Or C, B and C, I don't know.
Perfect. Any other additions or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, if someone would like to make a motion to approve with 5.4 and 5.5 moved to 8.1A and 8.1B, the addition of 7.3 under old business, discussion possible action for January 22nd meeting, and moving council concerns and mayor's report to 9.2.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve that agenda with the changes we discussed.
All right, I've got a motion from Gina. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. All right, next we'll move on to public forum. This is an opportunity for citizens to present items to the council that are not on the agenda. Each presentation is limited to 3 minutes and a maximum of 15 minutes is set aside. If your item needs follow-up from the city, staff will arrange time for that. If you'd like to step forward for public forum, please make your way to the podium, state your name and address, and council will hear your concerns.
Well, hello again. My name is Joe Burheit. I live at 110 First Avenue Southeast. You will have to give me a little bit of forgiveness because I don't come to a lot of these things. So what I'm going to speak about actually
Sorry to interrupt, but if this is on the agenda, this is this regarding something that's on the agenda?
part of it is.
And then it's not allowed to be discussed at open forum.
Okay, what about the part that isn't? Well, let me ask a clarifying question. So is there gonna be a portion where I can speak?
Council
During-
may allow it, but right now the public hearing has been closed. So this is on the agenda for council decision. If they choose to open it for discussion, they may, but you may not, use the public forum for this topic.
Okay, well, I believe there's some procedural issues that are wrong. With something that's coming up later, but I guess if,
You can address it at that time if council allows.
all right, well, I will wait patiently to see if they'll let me.
This is still public forum. If anybody else would like to step forward and speak on the public forum.
Hi, my name's Jared Campbell, 31st Street Southeast, Pine City. I brought my water with and I won't put any leaves in it, I promise, because that would be ridiculous. I have water here from Andy Withrow, who brought all the wonderful artifacts last time. He can't be here, so he sent out this letter he wanted me to read. Hello, everybody. I wanted to start by saying I wish I could be there in person, and I appreciate all your time and commitment to your passions. Pine County has become one of my greatest passions in the last few years. As such, I feel it needs guardians and protectors like many of you strive to be, each in our own different ways, each with our own different visions. I really appreciate the way my impromptu speech was received at our last meeting. As I'd said before, I really wasn't planning on speaking and never guessed where this was about to lead. After that speech, I was admiring the way Jared was defending Hodge Point and trying to figure out how to get a hold of him. He
I'm
beat
sorry
me
to
to it.
interrupt again, but this is not allowed during, this is on the agenda.
This is about something else.
Is it regarding to the property?
I'm sorry, it's regarding my property.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Continue.
Is that all right?
Yeah, it's your
Okay,
property.
good. Thank you. He beat me to it in less than 24 hours later, and I was at his house getting a tour of the late Senator Hodge and Dr. Stratty's estate. It made me realize why he's fighting so hard and how especially that property is, not just to his family, but to our state history and more than that. I told him that I'd like to try metal detecting through the snow and see if I had any luck. I expected to find a few silver coins, although my greatest hope I did not expect to realize was a copper culture tool or archaeological site. The shores of our area are ripe with ancient history, 3 to 5 times older than Jesus Christ. They need protecting, and I was in shock when I first pulled out a copper tool from its original soil at depth at Mr. Campbell's yard. Over the next few days, I took a couple hours each day and continued to search in his property and the neighbors to the south, and I found many more historical artifacts pertaining not only to Senator Hodges, but what I did not expect to find was numerous copper culture artifacts. But I did verify 4 verified ancient copper culture specimens that were created by the very first humans in our region were recovered, including a very beautiful copper spearhead. This prompted me to contact Jennifer Rankin, the head of Minnesota's Historical Society. Jennifer is an archaeologist with 25 archaeologists under her purview, half of them being DNR. We worked together a little bit in the last couple of years on the other side of the lake. Her and Dan Wendt are a brilliant team with a passion for early human history. The 4th copper specimen was brought out of the dirt with Weston Davis, myself, and Jared Campbell. She declared Hodge Point an archaeological site because of what Jared and I found this far. She's here today in our stead as our champion. Please welcome her with our open arms, and we deeply about what she's discovered so far. Thank you again for your time. Sincerely, Andy Wentfeld.
Wow.
My name is Jennifer Rankin. I am the Director of Archaeology for the Minnesota Historical Society. So I wanted to take this time to actually just introduce myself, and talk about some of the archaeology that we are currently doing in Pine County, but very, very specifically along the Snake River, the Lower Snake River. So by residents of this county, we got informed about quite a few interesting archaeological sites and features over the past few years. And a few years ago, we funded a project that was really kind of trying to understand different times of periods in Minnesota's history. And one of the things that brought us was kind of this region. Obviously, we already know that this region is really, really rich with cultural resources, especially Snake River Fur Post, which we're very committed in the archaeology there. Not only associated with the Fur Post, but what's one of the most exciting things about this area is people have been coming to this area over and over and over again for 10, 13,000 years ago. So in my background, I did my bachelor's degree, master's degree, and PhD. One of the things that I started researching was the late Pleistocene, early Holocene, where Paleo Indians were coming to the region for years and years. And one of the things that's really interesting about this location is this area has some of the oldest archaeological sites in Minnesota that have repeated use of people coming over and over and over again. And so that kind of really, really drew us in. In addition, there's been more recent research related to copper, right? You think about copper, everybody thinks that copper is more of a recent innovation, and most people don't think about copper and metalworking. They think about kind of the old world, right? Europe, the Middle East, and so forth. But what's really interesting is Minnesota has some of the earliest copper working in the road. It champions, places like Iraq and other locations. And so we're actually, we think about that here, kind of Isle Royal, right? Everybody kind of associates copper working with Lake Superior, but we actually do have quarries and everything associated right here in Pine City. So we're really, really interested to understand this. And the study is, we're kind of working on a study right now with the Science Museum. It's a partnership with the Minnesota Historical Society and Science Museum. We want to better understand. And so we've been looking to local partners like Jared and Andy to really kind of understand, gain access to the properties, and see kind of what kind of stories we can kind of build upon from this. And this is kind of what led us to this point, Hodges Point, actually. So one of the things that we've been looking at is the parcel that Jared and Heather own, and we have identified an archaeological site there. At first, we were looking at just the copper site, but we've actually found a lot more, including one of our own state senators who lived at that property. And so we're really interested to learn more. And so thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Right, this is public forum. If you'd like to come forward for public forum, please make your way to the podium.
Thank you. My name is Dan Wendt. I'm from Lino Lakes, Minnesota, just down the road. I'm not a stranger to Pine City. I have some of my favorite memories here. Visiting the Pine City Fur Post, having Dr. Tony Romano teach me how to make stone tools, having Joe Neubauer teach me how to hammer copper tools, learned from the best. I'm currently a president of the Minnesota Archaeological Society, and I just wanted to introduce the topic of how special Pine City history is. Jennifer mentioned how early the sites are here. It's a cluster of the earliest sites, certainly in the state, probably the continent. The early use of copper along the St. Croix River, including the Snake River, and a source of copper and workshop sites for making tools, which is like a unique resource in the state. Beyond that ancient history, there are proto-historic Native American villages, historic villages, fur posts. You have an incredible history in copper mining exploration, in forestry, and all of that woven together is the history of Pine City. It's the history of the state. You encapsulate the history of the state. I wanted to just offer that there are a lot of resources available to you in your planning. including the office, the Minnesota Historical Society, the Office of the State Archaeologist, Historic State Preservation Office, can all work to assist you in planning how to manage your cultural resources. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, this is still public forum. If you'd like to step forward for public forum, please make your way to the podium, state your name and address, and we will hear your concerns.
My name is Mark Durn. I live on the Lower Snake. The Upper Snake, the Lower Snake, Lake Pacagama, Cross Lake, they are treasure trove of history. We need to preserve these areas. I think it's paramount, and you should give that strong consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, this is still public forum. If anyone else would like to step forward for public forum, council will hear your concern. I will ask again if anybody would like to step forward for public forum. And I will ask for a third and final time if anyone else would like to step forward for public forum. Hearing none, we will move on to item number 5 on our agenda, the consent items. Would someone like to make a motion to approve or otherwise with our consent items minus 5.4 and 5.5?
I'll move it.
Motion by Dan. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Dave. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. All right, next up, let's move on to item number 6.1, First Street vacation. Marcy, do you want to kick us off, or Tabitha, do you want to?
Actually, Greg from SCA
Oh,
is here
Greg
to
is here,
lead
okay.
that. Mhm.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Item 6.1 is the vacation of First Street Southeast, as discussed and presented back at the December 17th meeting, and it was tabled at that time. Basically, this is vacation of a portion of the First Street Southeast, going back to the properties on each side, for a potential development, which would include a cul-de-sac. Right now, that street does not have a cul-de-sac on it, there's dead ends. The key points would be the DNR's reviewed the request after the timeline, but they did comment on it. They had no opposition if the wetland and zoning requirements are met, and that the city recommend retaining a portion of the city parcel or right of way, which we talked about before, about keeping something for easement for the utilities, so there would still be access to the river, and that's included in the staff recommendations there, which are to approve the vacation with the conditions of retaining a portion of the right-of-way adjacent to parcel 42.021.3000 and secure recorded easements for sewer and any utilities prior to filing the vacation. So we work with the applicant to make sure
that.
So any easements we need, whether there's an easement over the sewer or not, we don't have one. We get one secured for the sewer and any other utilities needed prior to recording the vacation. So we would have access up First Street, a portion of First Street to the river, even though the utilities run to the west. We would keep a utility easement out to the river, plus the city's portion of that parcel, because when you vacate a street, half goes back to each side. The city owns the parcel on the north and on the west side. So we would keep that 33 feet, and we would keep an easement to the south to cover any utilities needed. And then that would be part of the recommendation from staff. And that would be prior to filing the vacation. And the next step, if this were to move forward, would be to submit a site plan, which would include a plat for the cul-de-sac and any easements and all of that stuff that would be needed. And that would all come before you as part of PUD. So that'd be another step in the process on this. So tonight, all you're considering is the vacation of the north part of First Street Southeast.
I have, a question about, is there a rough drawing of the plan of, in why, how does it benefit the city to vacate the street? What's the rationale behind?
The plan included in the December packet was a potential cul-de-sac with up to 10 single-family lots, similar to what was done on the Pines on the north side of it. So, I mean, that's the council's decision. Is this a benefit or not to the city? We're presenting you the facts of preserve a right of way, keep the city's portion of the land. If this is vacated and the development moves forward, it'll be a cul-de-sac at the end of the street. Right now, it's a dead-end street. We'll make sure we have the easements we need for utilities. So that's what the council needs to weigh. Yeah, up to 10 new single-family lots, or no development in the street, and the street stays the same the way it is. That's kind of, you know, we're just gonna get down to the nuts and bolts. That's basically what we're talking about.
Thank you, Greg. Council, do you have any other questions for Greg? Thank you. Tabitha, did you have anything extra to add to that, or does that sum it up for you? Perfect, thank you.
So the potential actions are on your memo there, Mr. Mayor. Approve with conditions, approve with additional conditions, table or deny the
Thank you. Members of council, questions, comments, concerns, thoughts?
I got a couple of questions for Mr. Foster. The cul-de-sac idea or plans that you have, are they in stone or would going, you know, allowing the street to be there or stay there, would that be an option, or is that not an option because of the amount of the lots that you can lot off of that, or what's your?
Well, I think with the Pine City zoning code, you have to all that in cul-de-sac if possible.
Well, cul-de-sacs are one thing, but we also have in plans, and I remember on other projects, we did Ys and we've done Ts and we've done other things. We have land on the river. You know, is that an option if for some reason we would allow a street to be built onto our lot down at the end, a turnaround for the fire trucks? Would that be an option for you to go and build at your expense, not at our expense? Would that be an option for you to go and just put straight lot or driveways in instead of a cul-de-sac?
Can I ask a question that's kind of goes with what you're saying?
Yeah, to
Where-
me or
To Tommy.
okay.
To, where do you envision the cul-de-sac being? Like at the end of the road, like the road dead ends and you just make a. Okay, so.
Where the road is dead end now.
Okay.
And it brings sewer west.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, cul-de-sac. The development actually turnaround. You imagine that you get the vines on the north end. Would be real nice. Wouldn't be very nice for fire truck. Not as nice as a cul-de-sac.
Well, it depends on how it was designed. If you designed it so that you went to the west and you had the street extended closer to the north, that would.
Right now, we just cul-de-sac probably wouldn't even be extended. By saying back towards the water, I think my cul-de-sac is a better idea. I don't know however get you. Makes more sense to have the cul-de-sac itself. It's better for the city. Better for fire.
The easement that you're going to allow us to keep, or would allow us to keep, would be how wide? Was it the 20?
Yeah. And then I also said that I would create a path from the cul-de-sac to the park.
Well, it's really not a park. It's a.
Well, yeah, which is the existing lot.
Anybody that's been down knows it's not a park. Lowland and very wet at times, but.
So at this point,
So one thing first.
Yep.
If the city does decide to turn that into a park, you're gonna vacate. If you vacated the street, you'd give me half of it anyway. Because you have to give it half to the
Well, I don't anticipate any more parks for a while. We got a lot of streets to repair. So I
I'm just
don't,
saying that half of it would go, if it was
Yeah.
ever vacated in the future, to take it.
I guess I have a question for city staff. Has this project made its way through to legal for attorney review?
It has not been sent to legal.
Question I had too, because there are some comprehensive plan legality questions in here that I don't know the answer to. Maybe I should, but I don't. But does this contradict the comprehensive plan? And are our T's crossed and our I's dotted properly? Doing a little digging into city and street vacations in the past. They haven't been so swimming, for lack of better words. And me personally, in my opinion, I want to make sure that we get this right.
What are you saying?
I would prefer a legal review as well.
is that a step we missed, or is that a step we normally would take, or do we rely on SEH to?
Greg, do you see legal reviews on street vacations often?
Yeah, on the street vacations, the more there, I believe. And
Well, that's what my concern is. That
I feel too like we're kind of giving away the street, and then this all is gonna happen later. I'd just like to understand the order, and I know things are complicated, and I too would feel comfortable with a legal review so that we have the steps in the right order and get our job up here, all of us, is to protect the city's assets. And that's what I'd like to be sure that we're doing when we make a decision.
Yeah, I can speak for myself and say that I love the idea of developing, and I love the idea of adding homes to our community. It's a great thing that needs to happen so that we can continue to grow. I just don't want to get caught between a rock and a hard place because we did something wrong, and it's happened in the past, and I want to try to avoid that if at all possible.
And I also want to acknowledge the archaeological historians that are here. Mayor, would you call on?
Yes, please.
So Jennifer Rankin, Minnesota Historical Society. I would point out, I would highly recommend the legal review. Just because one of the reasons I am here is that under state statute, the city and county and any local government has the responsibility to consider historic and archaeological sites. And I think the one thing that has been brought to our attention is making sure that all the procedures are followed under 138. So that would be Minnesota Statute 138. Specifically the portions for the Field Archaeology Act, and then also the Minnesota Historic Sites Act. One of the things about the parcel that is factored in here is that it is potentially eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. It's a multi-component location, as in its history relates to not only the ancestral Native American components to that, but also just Minnesota history from the turn of the century, so late 1890s to about the 1940s and 50s. And so that's something, because that's one thing that is we've identified it as potentially contributing. And so let me know if you guys need any additional information. More than happy to help about kind of the understanding of Chapter 138 in the different types of. And then plus, because this is an easement and transfer, if there is an archaeological survey that does need to be required, it does require licensing for any sort of archaeological surveys to be completed, because it might potentially be a transfer of an easement, my understanding.
Is the surveying, is that done between the city and the state, or is that between the state and the potential developer / project?
So it would have to be with the potential developer, but for approving the project though, that would be something you guys would have to consider. What I've seen from other counties is they do add conditions to the permits from the city level or county level, just indicating about the cultural, a cultural survey. And in this instance, we would be looking at archaeological survey. My one question would be about viewshed surveys too, and I think that's something maybe SEH might have to look into, because you're looking at a parcel that is a historic structure that is still standing. I'm not quite sure if you have to also factor in the pollution, right? Because we're also talking about a historic residence that was there, and so I sometimes in those cases, that's something I'd have to look into a little bit more. But the pollution also might be.
The parcel itself, though,
Mhm.
until either work commenced or that you were brought in to do a survey, you would have to be invited in to do that, or does the state have the ability to go in and just decide to create a?
And the developer would have to select that consultant and then work with that consultant. There's a lot of archaeological consultants out there, so it wouldn't have to be necessarily the Minnesota Historical Society or the DNR or the state archaeologist. It would have to be a particular archaeological consultant, and they would hire that consultant.
Is the only challenge that I foresee right now, if we even consider the potential either way, and I like the idea of a legal review, is that you wouldn't be able to find out if it is an archaeological site until development actually commenced and that whole process started, unless they invited you out to the property.
I would say we already know that it's an archaeological site. I think that's the one thing that might be missing here. And I don't know if that was something that got triggered during review or not. Sometimes it does get missed. But the permission to just show you guys, I can't. But this is currently the map boundary, and I only have one of these, but also I can't distribute this. That is the map boundary of the archaeological site. That red line, that's where the archaeological site boundary it is, and that is primarily based off of the Hodge farmstead homestead.
There's
Within-
nothing saying that it could extend farther. past
Yeah,
that,
it could
correct?
extend further. That's based on the information that we have to date, but it's always potential that it could extend further and it could extend in different directions too. That's only based on the information that we have to date. So that's when there's any sort of development or anything, that's why we make that take to do that studies around. That way we can fully understand. When we create archaeological site boundaries or define them, in some cases they might be natural boundaries, right? So we know where the river is, we know that the site is not going to extend into the river. However, there's a chance that there could be fishing weirs or something like that. One thing we do know about that point is that there's a lot of oral histories, not only with the Hodge family, so we know the Hodge family had a boathouse. There's actually good historical imagery that's available at the Pine City Historical Society, where you can actually see the boats there, and you can actually view it online. They actually have those pictures. But there's also documentation that there was a boathouse there. So in that lowland marshy area, we do know that there was a boathouse and things like that. But we also have documentation that it was Anishinaabe, Ojibwe ricing beds too around that point. So we know that the potential is really, really high in that region just because of the historical documentation. But there's a lot of oral histories that have been passed around. And I do know with the Hodge family, a lot of that documentation has been passed down and also passed through landowners too. So I know that there's a really good record, and they've made a lot of steps to actually make sure that that's preserved on record at the Historical Society. So
Was this a subject that was brought up in the previous discussed development? So, because at a different time you proposed a different possibility, and this was never presented at that time. And so I guess I'm just curious why it's now being presented. It wasn't presented back then. I'm just curious.
Yeah, so this is something that wasn't brought to our attention. So we rely on local community members to let us know when there might be impacts to archaeological sites. And so this wasn't on our radar because we cover the whole entire state, right? Like I spent my whole entire summer doing archaeology and doing like volunteer work up in Lake Bronson area. So we kind of relied on local community members. And it wasn't until we heard from folks like Andy and Jared that this got our attention.
All right, you needed that.
Yeah, I did name that right.
Council members, thoughts?
Well, I think it's very apparent that wouldn't pay to call for a vote because I wouldn't get any backing on that. So I think in all fairness to the developer, we need to, if we're going down this road, we need to go down it expeditiously. I mean, we need to make sure that we push things as fast as we can, but not trying to miss anything. but he's got development, you know, in mind and probably dollars involved in this. And, in all fairness to him, this wasn't brought up before, so if we're gonna go down this road, if he has to try to find someone, we need to make sure that we're available when he needs us available.
Someone have an idea of a motion that they would like to make, or?
How much time would be needed for a legal review? I mean, is that something that we could have a response for by the next meeting?
I would think at least 1 month, but maybe not 2 weeks. I mean, we can't even find an attorney in 2 weeks.
I can reach out tomorrow and we can propose to put it on the next agenda. And if we do need more time to have to go to the second agenda, but right now you could ask for the legal review, and if prepared and ready, you can go on the first meeting in February.
And is street vacation the only option that was considered in this development? That the only thing that we discussed as a community?
It's the correct process.
It's the only correct process?
Yeah, the street vacation. Wrong. Let's do the street vacation and that's why.
Mhm. Yeah. I understand that, but I'm saying development wise, is that the only thing that makes sense for you? Because it didn't go through planning, and I usually rely on planning to kind of flesh some of these things out. It was just brought straight to us. And so I'm just, it takes me more than, you know, a while to understand all the nuances of it. I try to read through it and then ask the correct people questions, but when it goes through planning commission, I usually have a good idea, and they do a lot of that legwork for us. So this has been a lot of work for us as council people as well. I mean, I'm not complaining, but it's just complicated. And I'm a behavior management person. I'm not a real estate developer, so.
And I don't want this to seem as though council is trying to kick a can down the road or to put something off or to try to avoid making a decision. Me personally, I just want to make sure we're making the correct decision before.
I've been around long enough to see what happens when we don't. It doesn't turn out so good.
Right, you got any experience with the amount of time that it takes on a legal review? I mean, anything that you've had to run through?
I think Marcy has a right idea, ask them to have it for the next meeting, and if not, we just gotta move to another meeting. I've seen, you know, the city right now are waiting on their attorney reviews on anything, unfortunately. But you have the right idea, you know, decision needs to be made, so developer to make it.
I guess, at this point in time, I would go ahead and make the motion that we table this until the next meeting, potentially the second meeting in February. It's already almost February, and have some legal review and go from there.
I'll second.
I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on requesting legal review of the street vacation? Hearing none, all those in favor of tabling, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, next up, we are looking at item number 6.2 on our agenda, parking ordinance, 13.04.010 amendment.
Good evening.
Hello.
So our parking ordinance does follow state statute. The review of this has been going on for well over a year. It has been reviewed by ordinance, it's been reviewed by planning. They both have made the recommendation to make these specific changes. It's been through very, very closely line by line, and we're looking for approval of each ordinance amendment. We did have public hearings on this as well in November.
Okay, so you'd be looking for, just to clarify, after discussion here, you'd be looking for a motion for 13.04.010 and 13.76.230 individually?
correct ordinance. It'd be 2025-14 and 2025-15 is what's at the top of both. My apologies.
And yeah, at one time, and I don't remember which meeting we were talking about it. But somebody, I don't know if you brought it up or who brought it up, but somebody brought up the point that this is the variances and that are very time consuming. Is that one of the reasons?
That is one of the main reasons we're giving parking variances left and right. I feel like for a while there was a handful every single year, and historically going back, you can see the multiple parking variances. Even to the point where our ADA parking isn't compliant with, federal guidelines anyway. So,
well, I can understand that, but here's my concern, and I just go back in history and the different issues that I had to deal with when I was in Adam's position. It was people would, when we started back in 2000 with the rental registration and the program, we had people that would want to buy a duplex or even a single family home and make a duplex or a triplex or a fourplex out of it, and they had no parking. And the problem with that, what happens, and we've seen it, we see it now, and I've seen it in one area of town, which I'm not going to name people and areas, but with these Airbnb outfits, what happens with these people rent out a building as an Airbnb, and one person rents, or a couple rents the unit, and 10 people come for the weekend. Now, where do those 10 people park? In front of everybody else's house. And I get really concerned that we're not taking some of this stuff into consideration, that maybe that's why variances were in place, to keep other people from having problems like this. And I don't know, there's businesses and stuff that need so many parking spots. There's nothing wrong with that. I have a hard time understanding what 1.5 cars is. Now, I somewhere in the town
it's the same as 2.5.
Well, but I know in some yards in town when they got a half a derby car, I understand that then, but this isn't always the same. So I guess I don't know if doing carte blanche across the board and giving everybody that ability is really the right way to go. But
The trouble to that point though is that if it's a public street, you can't prevent anybody from parking in front of somebody's house. I think there's implication where it comes into snow plowing season, and we got to make sure that we're enforcing, and whether or not the vehicle actually moves and is not just being stored on the road, we probably got to get into enforcement for that. But if they don't have adequate parking, that's not necessarily the city's responsibility, other than enforcing the policies. It would be on the property owner themselves to figure out alternative means of parking. And that could also open up a potential for businesses to come in and develop paid parking sites that would allow it to bring in potential for a new business. That puts it back on the actual owner of the property and away from the city.
well, for years they had the ability to go, as long as they could go within 300 feet of where they were at, they were allowed to have parking. They could rent that from someone else or get permission from another property owner to do that. And that usually solved most of the problems. But it also, what we're going to do also, besides increasing the problems to the people that live around these areas where this is going to happen, we're also increasing what we're going to be throwing onto our police and our public works and everything else. So if we're willing to accept that, I don't have a problem with that, as long as our ordinances that cover those type of issues are adequate for what this is going to create. And I'm telling you, it's going to create a problem. So if you don't think it will, you haven't lived through it. I have. So I'm willing to say that this is going to be an issue, and I don't know.
I guess one thing that I just want to sprinkle in here is, prior to being on council, I spent about 8 years on planning commission, and I want to say I could rattle off, like, Pine Tech has a parking variance, the elementary school has a parking variance, the high school has a parking, or the current requirements that we have had don't work. And we've given a variance to, I think Pine Tex was like 100 spaces. And though their lot can be full, there's never nowhere to park in the area. Same with the high school. Like, though their lot gets full, especially during graduation when there's games, things like that, there still is accessible parking. So I think getting in line and saying, you're going to build this business here, you're going to service this many people or this nonprofit here, and you need, I mean, the overflow parking at the high school, I want to say was like a 350 space requirement, and it was going to be used during homecoming and graduation would be the only two times that lot would have ever been used. So we granted them a variance at that point in time. So I think that's what this is kind of clearing up, is it's reducing that number of spaces down to what state standard is, making the spaces a little bit smaller for lot parking, and trying to avoid the fact that if you're opening up a business in Pine City that requires parking, you're probably going to apply for a variance for it.
What about people that drive big trucks?
I drive a big truck. I can park that thing anywhere.
No, all I can say is Minneapolis, St. Paul. Minneapolis, St. Paul. Just go down there and look at your streets and look at how much parking that they allow, which is nothing. And if that's the kind of problems you want here, that's what you're going to get. And if you don't believe it, just wait till it happens, because it's going to happen.
You're talking as far as having how many cars are on the street?
Yeah, you're going to have, well, not just cars on the street, but cars parked in front of other people's property.
So I mean,
We know they got to move off the street, Kyle, and when the snow stuff is in effect, the snow moving in effect.
but other ordinances over the years have been presented for no overnight parking in winter hours in residential areas and stuff. I mean, is that something, if we did implement this, that we would look at that and then enforce it that way?
Well, they can park off street on their yard in the wintertime, October 15th to April 15th, am I wrong?
Off street.
Off street.
Not off
Something like
street.
that. Oh, they can park in their yards. They can park in the yards and that at that time.
Only one from November 1st to March 31st.
There you go, something like that. I don't know. I just remember that it happened. And I just think we need to be cautious about going carte blanche on this. If we got certain things that this seems to be a massive problem, has it been a problem with single family homes? Then why change it? That's what my point is. Why change it? Because then we're gonna have people.
We do have a couple developments that have applied for the variance in the years.
And a couple of years, that's not enough to get me to get concerned about, but I'm not worried. I understand what Kent's saying, and I agree with him. I mean, I was part of that process when they were doing that, and I understand it was only a couple times a year, like graduation and homecoming. That was about the 2 times that they filled everything plus a few. And but the single family home thing, if it's not a problem, and duplexes, why are we doing this? Because then all we're doing is spreading it to the poor neighbor. And I mean, you give up a lot by Richards Town. And if anybody doesn't think that, just move into Pine City. You do. I mean, but you shouldn't have to give up everything. You shouldn't have to be put upon. I mean, because that somebody thinks we don't need that many parking spots. And like I said, I don't think having 2 parking spots for a home is unreasonable. I think that's very necessary. Everybody drives a couple things.
I should know the answer to this, but I can't recall. What is our short-term rental policy in the city? Is it handled by the county, or do we have something?
It follows our regular rent. Like I said.
So do we have the ability, if we chose to, modify that policy for short-term rentals such as Airbnbs, VRBOs, things like that, to include parking regulations and requirements for those inspections, so the owners know, hey, like to Dave's point, we have one person renting and they show up with 10 cars. These are the parking regulations. You as the owner are responsible.
We could. We had them.
Yeah, we don't currently have a short-term rental ordinance.
Okay.
Because I will say, Mr. Swanson, that I have stayed at Airbnbs or Verbos, and they have said clearly, and when in the booking section, is you are allotted 1 parking spot.
We went to South Padre, we got 1 parking spot.
Yep. Last time we went to Seattle, we had one parking spot that was next to a Japanese maple 3/4 of the way up in a driveway. And that's what you got.
Part of this, so like 2-family and townhouse dwellings, it does have 1.5 spaces per unit. So if there's 2 units there, you should technically have 3 parking spots.
I handle a lot of those issues and they were handled by telling people, no, you can't. And that took care of the problem. We're just what we're gonna have is they're gonna be coming to the city, complaining to the city that they got people parking in front of my house all the time and I can't get out of my driveway because they parked their car 2 feet into my driveway and that. And if that's what we want, that's what we're gonna get. And I don't know. I'm the trouble with being old is that you've seen this and it's happened, and if people don't think history is not going to repeat itself, you really are fooling yourself.
As far as blocking a driveway, wouldn't you just have the ability to have the vehicle towed?
But yeah, you could, I suppose, if you can get the sheriff's office to do it. Good luck. I know people have tried.
You had to call the sheriff's office?
Oh, yeah, you would have.
to.
No, you would have to call the sheriff's office unless you have a signage out there. They have to be told at their own expense. But property owners got to do that kind of. I mean, you got it in your lot where you park over there, where you live. So people know that. I'm just saying, be cautious about it. I obviously am going to vote no for the whole thing, but that's my purpose. Whether it passes or not doesn't, I just think we need to take out things like single family homes because I think that's where the problems are going to come in. Single and duplexes.
I'd really rather just have an ordinance that says you can't park on city streets and residential areas overnight except for in the business and bar districts. Personally, and just let the tow trucks know and just let them go and enforce it. But I guess that would be too much of an HOA thing.
I don't know.
All right, any other questions, comments, concerns? Just to clarify one more time, you have two ordinance years, 2025-14 and 2025-15.
Right.
2025-15 is the
Parking regulations for all districts.
regulations, and then 14 would be
Design requirements.
all right.
And I agree with the design part. Yeah, I did. There are things have changed and handicap regulations and stuff have changed. So yeah, we need to get that upgraded and stuff. But
So we voting on 4 things?
Two things.
2.
So
Or
I
just
would
the
make
new
a
one?
motion to approve resolution 2025-14 parking design requirements.
all right, I've got a motion from Dan. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
And a second from Kyle. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this is a motion to approve 2025-14 for design requirements. This must be a roll call vote, correct? Yep. Okay, Dan, I will start with you.
Aye.
Gina,
Yes.
Dave,
yes,
Kyle,
I
and I will also vote yes. That motion carries. And then next up, we will be looking at 2025-15.
I'll move it.
Motion by Dan. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
A second from Kyle. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we will proceed with a roll call vote. Kyle, I'll start with you this time.
Aye.
Dave,
no.
Gina,
Yes.
Dan,
Aye.
and I will also vote yes. That motion carries.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to old business. We'll start off with 7.1, personnel policy.
All right, this has been a labor of love where we've updated. It was brought before council, I want to say back in November or December, and there was some issues brought up. Those were changed. We gave council till, was it end of the December 31 to send any others. So we've updated what council had suggested during the meeting, and looking for approval on this policy that will be enforced for all personnel. They will have a sheet to sign that they've received it and move forward from there.
I still have a little bit of middle ground for 6.04 adverse weather for city administrator shutting down
Okay.
the facility.
Can you say that 6 point what?
6.04, I believe.
Okay,
Only because it says that the employee can decide if they want to work, and I'm just wondering if in the event that they can't work from home because their internet or whatever is out.
Yeah.
And they want to go into a city building, perform their duties, but that building was shut down. That doesn't really give them the ability. They either have to take time off or take unpaid leave at that point. I just wonder if the language should be around that the administrator would open it up for your DTO or ESST time or unpaid leave if you deem that it's unsafe for your conditions. So that if somebody who does live close to town wants to come in and work, can perform their duties, but if somebody deems that it's unsafe, then they would make that decision.
but doesn't it kind of say that though? Will they be allowed to use their eligible E ESST?
Yeah, but the way the language is it just looks like if you shut down Hilltop and say a person who works at
Yeah.
Hillside,
Oh, yeah.
Hilltop, wants to go in and work in that facility, does the building become shut down and they're no longer performing their duties because they can't perform their duties at home because maybe their utilities are out or something?
Okay, so just more clarity on if, because I would think if it's shut down, I don't even know that they'd be needing to use.
Right. If they ran out of time and they didn't want to lose hours for whatever reason, or just didn't want to use it, would they not be able to come in and work because the building itself is shut down? I'm guessing
They would,
might be other opportunities because all the other facilities probably still going to be open, but
yep. And we do have a couple people who are very close by and that everyone has access to the building, so they would be able to open it.
yeah. So I guess I just wonder, is that building going to be open or is it going to be shut down?
I think if no one could come in, then we'd have to shut it.
Okay,
But if someone's there, one person can man the phone and the front desk.
okay. And that language in there is just a little bit still.
Okay,
I like the fact that you open it up for safety concerns on their part though, so.
do you want us to bring this back with the rewording?
Or can you approve it with the reword?
I guess my recommendation would be to approve it all but 6.04.
Oh.
Additional, if that makes
I
sense.
like that idea, yes. And then bring 6.4 back to the next council.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's
That will be my motion.
That's a motion.
I'll second it.
A motion by Kyle and a second by Gina to approve the personnel policy with the exception of 6.04 for adverse weather condition. Any further discussion from council? Hearing none, does this need to be a roll call or this can be a,
This is just a policy. You can just do a
okay.
not need to go.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right, next we will move on to 7.2, schedule work sessions, council meetings.
At the last council meeting, you discussed about, because you approved the council's meeting schedule, but we talked about maybe pulling quarterly or a few random dates here that would be really specified for a work session. And if you've looked at those dates, if anything stood out that you'd like to designate them to a work session time versus a council meeting.
So we did try single meetings and it seems like every single meeting with the 2 meetings has so much information that you still need the 2 meetings. I like the idea, like tomorrow has a very specific time limit for specific categories. We knock those out, we're good. Or we set a specific time to handle those in the future. Designating a work session right now without actually having a list of things that we might be tackling at those points is kind of hard for me to determine. Almost like a purpose-built meeting where we don't have to have a 6-hour meeting.
I would recommend though that in the future we schedule a goal meeting, a goal work session. Either the end of December is kind of busy.
Would you like?
first part of December or early in
I
January.
mean, we're at the beginning of the year, would you let's think like a goal setting even in the first?
I think it's important to help our
First
focus. But that could, every year we're gonna wanna set goals. So that could be one of the work sessions for sure.
I was thinking somewhere around June might be a good idea to have an open work session to the public for comment on budget and where they might like to see the city spend its money. And then maybe somewhere around August, have another work session, if you will, for preliminary budget stuff.
I like that.
So those are, yeah.
Do you think we need to schedule that? Could we say something like would be our goal to meet potentially quarterly or when necessary, but with knowing that we'll have scheduling a mid-year budget work session prior to our preliminary budget and maybe even prior to our finalized budget in case folks have questions.
Would it make sense to add it as an old business item on an agenda, each month so that we can discuss when we're gonna set it? Cause I like the idea of setting one for June. I just don't know if I will be available that day or something else could be going on. If we're closer to the day of, I'm gonna have a better idea on what's going on.
Maybe it could get worded like that, like as the administration keeper, that we know we want to have a goal setting, a budget work, these are the workshops that we need to schedule. Identify some workshops and then additional workshops can be added, but
We add
at
that
least those, because otherwise we didn't have one last year and probably the year before, a goal setting workshop.
add that as another, like we have new business, old business, the headings on our agenda. Could we have just like a workshops heading maybe that you could just leave some things on there that are just kind of more informational to keep it in the back of our minds so we don't say, yeah, that's a great idea. And then 6 months from now, we've all totally forgotten about it.
Right.
That doesn't
Never.
And so, the other workshop that we could keep in mind and then drop it if not needed, but we could have a learning workshop, like, kind of, we're gonna have new council members and, getting everyone on the same page and kind of up to what the regulations are and what's expected of them.
Part of this for me too is not to get too political, but we may be in a position where we're gonna have to think on our feet about some things depending on how the climate of the state and the country goes, so it scares me.
Perfect. Does that
Mhm.
give you enough? to
Good
start with?
direction. Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Anything else, council, for 7.2? Hearing none, we will move on to 7.3, discussion and possible action for January 22nd meeting.
I'm just gonna throw this out there, as much as I don't want to. Tomorrow, the cold, as we know, is supposed to come fast and furiously, starting at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's gonna dive hard. I'm wondering, if we want to consider rescheduling that work session for staff safety. Because even if we start at 5, it'll be 7:30 by the time we get out of here. And I'm just wondering if there's any desire to potentially
Works for me.
reschedule that.
I'm gonna be doing it on the phone anyways because I'm leaving. I'm gonna be on the road.
So my only other question is, I know there was a special council meeting last week that didn't go through because of the mention of interactive stuff. So we have that ability now, I believe, if everybody wants to attend virtually tomorrow rather than in person.
I think though,
There has to be,
at least one person in the actual meeting location. That being said, if you guys all want to meet remotely and continue with tomorrow's meeting, I can be your seat.
So I know I will be able to be, I can't guarantee on future. So if it's Dave and I that have to pin it down, or I have to pin it down, I can do that.
I was just wondering about staff, because we've got a lot of staff that has to drive quite a distance, and it's dangerous cold.
Yeah, and I don't Was anything on tomorrow, other than the fee schedule, we probably want to not push that down too much further, but was there anything that was needed a super immediate response on tomorrow's?
Well, there was a discussion on committee meetings and we have been kicking that around. So there was, what was the third item?
Committee fee code of conduct.
Code of conduct.
Both the committee and the fees, or the committees need to get, because we're gonna have a big turnover.
We are.
We already have.
That being said, is there anybody that knows? We'll say it's 50 degrees below zero and 50-mile-an-hour winds tomorrow. Is there anybody that would know for sure that they would be comfortable being here? Okay, because even if the rest of you guys want to be remote, as long as myself or
We already have a couple department heads who won't be able to attend tomorrow, but I've already met with them.
Okay.
Should you have questions on why the fee's that fee, I'm able to report for them. So
Maybe the fee portion is the part that we delay on, code of conduct, and the committees is the part that we talk about.
and keep it a shorter meeting. Sure. That's a good idea.
I like that. If we're comfortable with that, I'd be comfortable with that.
To nail it down to just committees too, if we need to address it, but.
Yeah, I think we need that in the form of a formal motion to modify what's on the agenda tomorrow, or is it more of a?
Yeah, tomorrow we can just make a motion to pull off that,
sure,
off
let me
that
prove it.
agenda.
Okay,
Whatever you feel like you want to attack tomorrow.
perfect.
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome. And we can, I'm sure I can struggle through and get the WebEx going, and between Melanie and I or some other staff and I, we could figure out if I was the only one that could be here. Yeah, we can make that work.
Yeah.
Okay.
So who's already planning to be remote? You know you are? Okay.
Perfect. Any other discussion on 7.3?
So I guess, I know we can talk about tabling it, but just so staff is aware, are we gonna talk about fee stuff so that they don't have to think that if we're gonna table something or interpret it that way or jump on remotely or
It would be my recommendation that we just preemptively push fee schedule down the road until the next meeting. How was our first meeting of February look? Is it packed?
No, it's not.
Okay. Let's push it there. Would be my recommendation.
should we? So you probably have to take an official vote at that point, I would think.
Do we have to?
Well,
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because it's on that
It's on
agenda.
the agenda, but
Okay. But belt and suspenders, I'll make the motion that we remove the fee schedule portion of tomorrow's meeting, and that's the 1st February. It would be February.
Just not sure because the agenda said if you can do it outside of the
I think we have to do it right.
time. I think,
I think we're all in agreement that we're gonna do it. Well,
Yeah.
See why we wouldn't.
I don't think because that's like changing the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Perfect. All right, we'll move along to new business. 8.1, approving labor agreement and memorandum of understanding between the City of Pine City and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, local union number 65.
So we've been working since last midsummer on the AFSCME contract. We had our labor attorney as a big part of this, and I apologize that he's not here tonight. He was here last week when that was not posted correctly, and I really apologize for that. However, you've had the agreement for basically 2 weeks. So he had reached out saying if you had questions to direct him to the attorney, but otherwise I'm looking for council to approve the agreement and the resolution 2026-12.
Is the MOU under that same or you?
The MOUs are separate. We separated them completely from the agreement. And they have been altered and negotiated. But they are not going to be a part of the contract moving forward at all.
Okay. Perfect. Questions, comments, concerns from council?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve resolution 2026-12.
All right, I've got a motion from Gina for 2026-12. Do I hear a second?
A second.
And a second from Dave. Any further discussion?
It feels really good to have this completed and, to know that it's the way it's supposed to be. It's legally standing.
And I want to thank Counselor Swanson and Counselor Palmer for being so actively involved with this because it was, I mean, I want to say we started in end of June or July, early July. We've been working on this. It's been a very lengthy process. And so thank you for all your help.
They weren't short meetings either. Not a single one of them was under 4 hours.
Right. That's crazy.
So I guess back to my previous question, the resolution looks like it encapsulates all three of those items. It's not broken out.
The resolution will approve all of this. I think I still have to have you approve the actual agreement, though. I thought they had to be approved individually. Like the resolution by roll call.
You want us to just do it in a different order?
I guess that's just my question, because you mentioned the 3 different items. and
Yeah.
Now you have a resolution that seems to have all 3 items in one approval, so. MOU.
Just the resolution. So approving the resolution will approve the signature of the labor agreement and the signatures of the MOU. Okay.
Clear to everybody on council?
Yes.
Okay. Everybody's good with their motions at this point still?
Still good.
Okay, we've got a motion by Gina and a second by Dave. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this is a resolution, so we will proceed with a roll call vote. Dan?
Aye.
Gina?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Kyle?
Nay.
And I will vote yes, that motion carries. All right, next up, 8.1A, this would be accepting the resignation of Public Works Director Maury Montbryan.
Maury has submitted his resignation, having his last day on February 11th, 2026. After 17 years of service to the city. So I'm looking for council's approval on the resignation.
Council, thoughts, comments, concerns, questions?
Is there a plan in place to extract 17 years worth of public works information onto paper somehow? Because I just, based on my own experience in other industries, when that amount of knowledge leaves, there's a lot of knowledge that leaves that may
Yes.
not be printed or written down anywhere or anything. So I'm just curious if there's a plan to.
I know Maury and I have talked quite a bit. He's leaving on very good terms and he cares deeply about the city. And I know that we'll be able to reach out to him should anything come up, and he's made that very clear.
Thank you. And are there responsibilities that he has that we might have to look for additional subcontractors to cover? Is this gonna be, we're gonna try to look for a same with certifications?
If council approves, we will be posting tomorrow. And I know that another public works employee who's been here for multiple decades is in a wealth of knowledge as well. So he's stood in that position numerous times.
Okay, thank you.
All right, would someone like to make a motion regarding Mr. Montbryan's resignation?
I'll move it.
Motion by Dan to accept Maury's resignation. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Kyle. Any further discussion?
Maury, if you're listening, thank you. Thank you for 17 years. Good luck to you in your future endeavors.
David, you have something?
Well, I just, in all the years that I was in charge of people, we never usually, when you had someone in a higher position like this, you never allowed that person to stay on. You cut your ties and you started the search and you just made do. I don't know.
Are you saying that you want to cut ties right now?
I mean, we're obligated to a certain amount of pay. We're obligated to benefits that go until, and he has the option to pick up benefits if he wants to for a period of time. I think we have got a good crew in hand. I think we can go outside and find. But I don't understand, what we're losing here by waiting and cutting our ties in 30 days.
You have a day in mind?
It's hard to do it immediate because, staff can't go and make out a paycheck tonight. So I'd say, Friday's the 23rd, my motion. I can't make a motion, I already got a motion on the floor. But I would say Friday would be, he would, bring everything back that belongs to the city, turn it in and, to Marcy Peterson. And, they would have their exit interview at that time. And, if he's still getting paid, which he would, why wouldn't he be there if we needed to converse with him? I really don't understand why he wouldn't, but if he didn't, I guess that would be his choice.
Once you let him go, regardless if you're paying him, he's under no legal obligation to provide us feedback. So if he's in good standing or feels happy about it, and you do have to reach out to him, whether in these 30 days or later on down the road, is he gonna have a sour taste in his mouth with how it was handled if we cut the cord now, or?
And the other was.
I guess I
he's
got.
already quit and he's doing his due diligence by putting in 30 days. Pays the same if I show up at work or if I don't. I know what I choose. I would.
Yeah, but it allows his department to adapt to the changes that are going to be coming. And I know I can say honestly, he cares deeply about his department. He cares about it being a smooth transition. So it's up to council how they move forward. But
Well, first of all, I got to be careful what I say because I'm on the Public Works Committee. I'm the only one on the council on the Public Works. Is there reasons why he wants to go to other places? I don't know. There's thoughts out there. We had radio news stories. We had TV, or we had newspaper stories. Is that a factor in why he made his decision? I'm not saying that's the reason I'm making my decision that way, but
So to get everybody on the same page, that's the craziness of my brain. Maury's last day would be February 11th.
correct.
If we acknowledge his resignation, if we allow tonight for them to post the position, correct me if I'm wrong, is 2 weeks it has to be posted?
Yeah, and I would encourage council to even let me post it for 30, and we can always start interviewing sooner.
Do we have to take internal?
2 weeks external? Is that?
Do we have to
We
take
don't
internal?
have to post it internally because it's not a union position.
Gotcha.
So even at that 2 weeks, that puts us at, from today, that's putting us at, like that same week of the week of the 11th. So we're looking at a 2-day, if we and then once we hire somebody, the assumption is that they're going to have to put their notice in somewhere. So it would be, do we decide to let him keep running things, let him get his final knowledge dump out by the time his last day comes and goes, we're still gonna be in interviews and dealing with the hiring process, so.
Because again, he's genuinely gonna wanna leave it in good working order when he leaves. He cares deeply, so allowing him to finish this time is gonna we'll still have it open. So, and then, like you said, we're gonna have the interviews. That takes time. Then we have the, if they have to give a 30 days notice at their current position, we're easily looking at 2 weeks without anyone in that position, or sorry, 2 months without anybody in that position. So,
And he may have things that he needs to wrap up in that 30 days as well with
Right.
vendors and subcontractors and things like that, any transition that might be taking place.
and I know I've mentioned before, but the certificates he holds allows Pine City to avoid people service, which is a very expensive service cities have to pay if we don't have someone like Maury with those certificates. So it's a huge savings to the city having him here as well.
So can we pay Maury services instead of city services in the future? No?
So if he would have provided 2 weeks notice instead of 30 days notice, would that have changed your decision or your thought process?
Is there a requirement for 30-day notice?
For a department head, yes,
Yeah.
there is.
And I will say, in my position, I don't think that we actually have this policy, but in my position, I have been essentially told if I were to ever go looking for work, I would not be touching computers at the county, which is my fault. Like, I would not be doing my day-to-day operations. I would be sitting in admin, shredding papers or whatever they could fill the rest of my time with the county. So this is not an abnormal thought process either way.
My work would squeeze every last.
Working overtime that last week.
I just think.
What guarantee do we have that we're gonna get that information that he's got? I mean, that's,
And
heck, we got water lines and sewer lines in towns that the only one that knows is us, and he's buried. You know, there's a lot of stuff in this town that nobody knows anything about. I think there needs to be some kind of supervision in the last 30 days and knowing what's going on and finding out what we need to know from him and what knowledge he has or what's coming up or what's due or what's overdue.
Mhm.
Just to expect him to leave on the last day and say that we've got everything we need, we don't have to worry about anything else. That ain't gonna happen.
I guess, do we have the ability to, keep them in the office at the core hours, Monday through Friday or whatever, and have them write down all the information rather than go to the elements?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with whatever the rest of the council wants to.
I was under the understanding that we do have other staff members that have certifications.
Mhm, we do.
So we're not, he doesn't have a lock on that. And yeah, we can hire Minnesota Energy if we needed to fill in on any part.
I guess setting job duties for that 30 days would probably fall more on you than the council, though, right? If you wanted to stay in the office and write down all those stuff. I mean, we wouldn't need to take an action on that. If the administrator would be-
I would feel better if I knew that there was someone at least writing things down, though. You can't.
But we do have a motion and a second on the floor to accept his resignation as written. Any further discussion from there? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting Lori's resignation, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Motion carries. All right, now we would be looking at 8.1B, which would be.
Then we have 8.4 in there?
No.
Or
Yeah, 5.5 is now 8.1B.
Oh, I gotcha. I thought you said 8.3, 2.
This would be request for council action to approve the posting of public works director position.
I'll move it.
Wait.
Yeah. Retracted. So
I know the idea would be presented at what the current salary is. A new rising trend seems to be giving a range, as far as, credentialing. And I kind of wonder if we should set a range for that position and have, you know, a lower range if we get no other applicants. We give us ability to, work up to that pay. If they were to meet requirements within X amount of days, if they had all the certifications and requirements, we could accept it at the exact amount. But the other thing I think that we should consider is even putting the potential for a higher range out there. Because if we do go external, we could draw in more if there's a bigger ticket item out there. It would give us a lot of different movement throughout that. So setting it at the current pay, I know if we went above it, it would have effects on the budget, but I think that's something that we should discuss because. Good point.
Yeah.
And it currently, just to keep in mind too, the current budget was set with an 8% above current. So that's already worked into the budget as well.
Okay. So it would be nice before we approve that we had that budget range, I guess.
Do you want to wait till the next meeting to approve the posting?
No, I really want to post the posting now, but I just wonder if there's a way that we could set the range
Yeah.
right now as part of it.
Base would be 73,902 at step 1. And step 8, 103,988.
I guess that's probably the range that would throw out there unless you want to condense it down and make it tighter, but
No, I think that
that's a good window.
personal opinion is anywhere in that range kind of, I think we should be.
People's eyes.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that that'd be their starting pay, but it's gonna draw in, like you said, a good pool.
Right.
Plus benefits, plus PTO, plus. So
That would give you a lot of flexibility for looking at applicants, I think.
Okay, so does council want to approve that range for the posting?
It's between step 1 and step 8.
Mhm.
So I will make the motion that we approve the posting based off of step 1 and step 8 pay as the range for 30 days.
Okay,
Or do you want longer?
let's start with the start 30.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll
And I will
second.
keep you updated weekly on how we're doing with applications.
Okay.
I'll second Kyle's motion.
All right, I've got a motion from Kyle to post for 30 days with the range between step 1 and step 8, and a second of that by Gina. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. All right, next up, 8.2, approval of public works for job description and promotion for Matt Lukey to position.
Find that, where is that? Okay, this was actually part of the negotiating, was to bring him into this position. There was wording in this job description which made it unappealing for him to take that. So we've reworded this, and we would like council to approve this. Basically, he's already doing this job. He's been doing this job for years. So accepting this would be promoting him to PW4 for a position he's been already doing for years.
So moved.
does that create a new step for him to, like, so he'll go PW4 down to step 1 and they have the ability to,
No,
or get slotted in
yes.
wherever?
He got slotted into where he wouldn't take a pay cut, so
Okay.
he did not go to, they found his wage to the closest that it was currently at without going below.
Okay.
And then on his anniversary, he'll go up a step.
Okay. But
Yeah.
he's got steps now, where before he was kind of.
Right.
Yep, he was
Okay,
max,
he's
because one of
max.
the things we did take out was, longevity
Longevity.
is no longer a part of the contract.
I will second Kyle's motion.
Gina, any further discussion?
Did, Gina, were you on when we had the other PW4?
Mm-hmm. And we had, I thought, taken longevity out of there
I thought we
when we
did.
were at the old place, but because I remember you and Maury kind of come at me. But I'm glad it's all done. It's just, there's missing,
Well, I think it's
fault.
important to have that.
Yeah.
I was all for that.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah.
I'm glad that you guys dug in and got things straightened out.
Yeah,
I'd
group
like to see
effort,
the bill.
very, group effort for sure. So thank you.
All right, I've got a motion to approve the PW4 job description, motion by Kyle, second by Gina. Any further discussion?
Congratulations, Matt.
Perfect. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
All right, thank you so much.
Cause you know, he has to wear a suit.
A green one, right?
Double deal suit.
Yeah. All right, next we'll move on to committee updates.
Liquor store did not have a committee meeting.
Okay. And HRA, we met yesterday.
Yes, correct.
I would say the biggest item of note at the HRA committee meeting, would be that through the city, the HRA had applied for the Small Cities Development Grant. We have notified late last week that we are in the top tier of applicants. And this grant would be, it's like $12,500 per unit in the building floor, and this grant would allow us to take care of the foundation issues of the building. It would also clear out the rest of the money we have in funds, but we've got some balloon payments that are coming up at the end of the year from 2 other housing facilities, so that'll bring back 100,000 of that at least. But this will, if we can move this forward and we can be awarded this would be great progress towards getting that building back into great shape.
Can I ask, and maybe you don't have an answer, but is there a backup plan if this SCDP falls through again?
That's been in the back of my mind. I think we either have to phase it or figure out what we can do, figure out what the next steps are. Anthony, do you remember anything other than as far as if we were not to get awarded this grant?
There's potentially other grants out there. This is just one that's hopefully not us how it works, but I'm sure.
I know pop funds have been, 3 years in a row. Pop funds was going to be it. Pop funds was going to be it. Pop funds was going to be it. And all 3 years it's been helpful.
And when was the concern originally identified?
Okay.
2019.
Because I was serving on HRA at that time. I want to say it might have been right towards the end of my term at HRA. And it was we need to do something. We need $2,000 for gutters, and the $2,000 problem became a $50,000 problem. The $50,000 problem became what it is today.
And at the time was the idea to only look at grant funding and not look at trying to set aside funds long term, I guess. In the event, to Mr. Swanson's point, if the grant funding doesn't pan out.
Correct.
There was a management change in there too.
There was
Yeah,
some
there's
management change a couple
COVID.
times. I left that committee when we changed the regulations to only be on one committee. So I think it was noticed. It went the last I remembered from when I was on the committee as it was between a $5,000 and $50,000 fix, and then I think once they came in, they started digging. I'm not sure.
We had a problem just finding anybody to look at.
Yeah.
And the other history before that, I feel like HRA just got revived like in 2017 or 2018.
Yeah.
Because otherwise the members had been on it for 25 years and they were all in their 80s. So we didn't really have an active HRA until a year. And then the person that managed the building also led the HRA meetings, and it was just, and when I had a different question. Not our greater Minnesota cities, but our other, well, yeah, maybe that's it. It's the League of Minnesota Cities and the greater Minnesota cities. They said something about they would do lobbying for us. Is this a place where we could utilize a lobbyist for that small business? I don't, I'm just, because they did say that they had that feature for us and we've never used a lobbyist as far as I know.
Well, I think it's worth taking a look, but my understanding is that any public housing funds have been frozen at the state level.
Right now, because of the budgets. Yeah.
So did we ever find out if that grant was awarded, if there's any obligations as far as how it sits for HRA in the city versus county or another entity?
Getting this grant would allow us to make the changes to the building, because before we can transfer the building has to be operational and up to code. So this would allow us to get to that point, and then the decision can be made to move it on to the county.
And maybe for the next HRA meeting, but has it ever been explored to do an insurance claim? At what point does this become an insurance claim? And they may not cover it all, but I would think as a property owner with property insurance that some of this is catastrophic at this point.
And I want to say, this is just
This
is just based on my memory. I want to say we actually found the foundation issues because there was hail damage on the shingles and on the siding, and they were re-siding and re-shingled the building, and that's when the contractors went, I think there's a little problem here. So I think that's, so I don't know, that's a great question. And I will definitely bring
Tom
forward.
might have some.
I usually have foundation. Do you have a leaky basement? Or basement is what we put. Basement wall caves in. Dude, because it's caused by water.
I agree with Tom.
Thanks for killing our dream.
Just trying to come up with financial solutions.
That's all I have for HRA. Unless anybody else has any questions. All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item number 11, Mayor's report. Just a quick update. We were awarded congressionally directed spending from the state. Wasn't the amount that we had hoped for, but it's a start. Also last week I received a call from Senator Klobuchar. And it sounds like we were also, or it had passed the House, passed the Senate, and it was going to the president's desk last week or this week for federally congressionally directed spending. It sounds like it was all expected to pass, but now would I say that? I want to say that was also $750,000, and I don't know.
Far cry from what we asked.
I don't know anything more than that.
But one thing, I directed this to Greg, and he had mentioned that this would it's something we can do annually and apply, but we can start doing phases. Like, what could we do with this, with that money?
What you need is
Step
most,
one.
Yeah, so between the two, that would give us about 1.5 million, which is less than I think what we're looking for, Greg, 7 from the state and 12 from the feds. Does that sound about right? But at least the starting point. Our ponds are workable, manageable. We're not in a dire need for immediate updates. So I think we can get started and do good work with this. And that's all I have for the mayor's report. Does anybody have any council concerns?
I do have some concerns over the vacancy stuff that's coming up. I do like the fact that we're gonna get a legal review for it, and probably something that should have been incorporated right away. But this is getting drug out for property owners and developers. It needs to be a process that all our ducks are hit right away so that we can give a yes, no answer instead of dragging it out. I'm also a little bit concerned that there's a lot of information that is now coming to light that didn't come to light before, and it seems like it was known information. So now we're getting state representatives in here to talk about a street vacation. So seems a little bit weird.
Well, I also think it's a little bit, because I don't think, correct, am I wrong that street vacations don't happen very often? So I think that's the other part, that they just,
Especially by a body of water.
yeah, they just, cities just don't do that, so it is new and rare.
Any other council concerns? All right, hearing none, we're gonna move back to item number 10.1 now. This will be a closed session for council, so we would ask all of our participants to leave.
Can we take like a 2-minute break?
Absolutely.